Hi everyone, I've been playing Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal. I'm using the dice from the third edition. Just finished the first turn on Firefight number 2 and just want to highlight some of the key actions of that turn. The Marines, their objective is to basically eliminate all the Japanese forces. Predominantly they are holding onto this village area here. And in the first turn they were able to move some starting forces from the top of the board into some jungle area, into some cover. There was a fierce firefight between these squads here and a squad of Japanese here, so much so that they inflicted a casualty which enraged the Japanese so much they went berserk and attempted to charge across the river. Unfortunately ran out of steam and rolled a 1, so they are stuck there for that turn. The Marines had a free action but were unable to even hit them as they crossed, the Japanese crossed the river, so no use whatsoever. On this side of the board here, American Marines entered the board, were able to take a few strategic positions. They encountered some Japanese who'd moved up to engage them, capturing that building there, but the American 30 cal there made short work of these guys, and actually they're eliminated. I've just left them on the board just to remind myself about that. In turn, some of the Marines took some pins from these Japanese here. So at the end of turn 1, the fierce fighting over here at the top of the board, a really nice narrative playing out here. On this side, Marines are moving up into position. We're able to eliminate the first casualty of the game as well. So yeah, looking forward to turn 2. So we've just done turn 2. It's quite dramatic. So the top of the board here, the Marines just were not able to contend with the Japanese squad here who are in berserk. The Japanese squad unfortunately rolled a low number, so they were spent as they moved in to the hex the previous turn. So yeah, the Americans tried to engage them in close combat, unable to do so. Mostly because when they're berserk, they get a massive buff on their value there. So unfortunately, we're unable to repel the Japanese from there. Here on this side of the board, really bad losses for the Americans. The Americans were trying to move forward to capture this village here and engage the Japanese at range, unable to inflict any casualties using sort of range combat, and the Japanese just closed in on them and were able to engage them in combat and finish them off. Really, really bad losses for the Americans. They lost their 30 cal machine gun, lost a couple of squads as well, and as we can see here, there's a couple of more combat rounds, close combat going to be happening in the next turn. And this is really because of using the spent action dice. The Japanese were just very lucky in the dice rolls they got, and the Americans were unable to contend with that. So yeah, a real turnaround on this turn. Americans suffering, really poor losses. I'm not entirely sure we'll get to the full 4 turns on this particular scenario, but let's see what happens in turn 3. So we've just finished turn number 3. All still to play for, actually. So a couple of key things happened here in this turn. Number 1, the Marines were able to defeat the Japanese squad in close combat. Conversely, this squad of Japanese beat the Marines in their close combat. So inflicted casualties on both sides there in this fierce fighting over these small huts here and some jungle as well, which was great. Conversely, then the Marines here still were able to roll on the dice and get the numbers they needed, and were able to engage a firefight with some conscripts in this building here, and were able to defeat them with a 6. So good rolling for the American player there. This side, combat again decisive. Japanese were able to defeat one of the squads of Marines in close combat, so they are now out of the game. Conversely, the Americans then engaged the Japanese in combat once they were spent, but to no effect. So and more combat to happen in the last turn of the game. In kind of desperation, really, to try and grab some victory points, this squad here, who I think are with a rifle squad, managed to hightail it across the opening of the river here and try and get into this village here to engage in some combat here. Unfortunately, they've just run out of steam, and we're only able to get to that point. With this game, one of the things I enjoy, you never really know if the plans are going to come to fruition or not. In this case, it hasn't done for that squad. So still to play for. We've got we're going to have some combat over here. We've got some combat there, and then we've got this poor lonely rifle marine squad against a couple of squads here, and a Japanese LMG squad as well. So yeah, let's do the last turn. See how that works out. So we're now at the end of the game. Just done the last 4th turn, and what a dramatic finish! Quite surprisingly, really. The Americans here were able to defeat the Japanese squad in melee combat. The American squad there able to defeat the Japanese squad that were there in melee combat, and then this particular squad here chose to engage at range combat one Japanese squad after another and defeat them both just simply with the dice rolls. So what I thought was going to be a clear Japanese victory ended up with victory to the United States Marine Corps. So that was great. What I liked about this scenario is it's quite quick to play. Probably took me like an hour to set up and play. There's a really strong narrative, as you could tell from the fighting. I like the spent dice. So what I've done is I've taken this from the spent dice from Awakening the Bear and used it on this game. So sort of used the new rules for Conflict of Heroes, but applied them to the Guadalcanal game, which I very much enjoyed. And I felt that it made the game a little bit more streamlined, and also maybe, especially playing the game on my own, playing it solo, made it a little bit even more unpredictable and a stronger narrative as a result of that. So yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun. I shall play some more of this game using the spent dice. And yeah, thanks for watching.